Hello, Monsignor Daniel McHugh. I'm the priest in the deanery who is responsible for the day for catechists. And this is our second day since the certificate course began. And I'm very interested to know how it is going. I'm fortunate because the catechist in the parish where I used to be, St. George and St. Teresa, Caroline Roskell, has kindly come along so that I can ask her some questions. She won't be able to be at our day, which is tomorrow, but she will be able to be there virtually because in this interview I'm going to ask her some questions that I can share with the other catechists. So, Caroline, first of all, I'm glad you've taken on the role of being catechist for St. George and St. Teresa. And secondly, very happy that you're taking this certificate course, simply because I know it's a good course being offered by the sisters in New Forest, the Dominican sisters, and also because I believe in a substantial course for catechists. So thank you for coming along, and thank you to Father John, your parish priest, who has asked you to be the catechist. And I wanted just to start by saying, how's the course going for you?
Thank you, Monsignor. It's very nice to see you again. And just to say that the course has been a revelation, which I suppose is exactly what it should be, in a sense. The course itself is lengthy, 2 years in length, but you get a sense that this enables the course to take the material seriously, to give time for absorption, reflection, and an adaptation almost of some of the ideas and material that's being presented in the course into your day-to-day work as a catechist. And that feels to me to be very important. It's not a theoretical course that is teaching me all about scripture, which obviously that is an important element of the course, but it's also helping me to develop as a catechist in the way in which I absorb that material and then find myself in a better place, better able to share that with other people who present themselves, for example, for confirmation or First Holy Communion. So I'm finding the approach to the course at the beginning to be one that offers me an awful lot of very valuable skills, knowledge, and approaches that will really strengthen my ability to function as an effective catechist.
So now, when you look at the course, I mean, looking at the outline of it, covers a lot of modules. So do you have written material that you go through, or do you have a certain amount of it that's online?
Yes, the course is all delivered online, and this has an advantage of drawing people from all over the world. Interestingly, there are 80 people signed on the certificate this year, and of those, one is in Australia. A number of the participants are in Ireland, and there's quite a lot from the locality of where the Dominican sisters are, so lots who are actually quite well known within that community, but equally there's a fair number of people as well spread across the UK. And this allows really quite a rich community to come together, to share ideas, to discuss different practices, different ideas and expectations, and different needs really of the different parishes. So that's a real richness of using the online environment. Of course, online environment with that many people, you might imagine it might lend itself to didactic teaching with delivery of material coming in a one-way sort of method, but actually it doesn't work like that at all. There's an online platform that runs lectures every Tuesday evening for 2 hours. And during those lectures, they utilize Zoom as a platform and all the modern opportunities that Zoom offers you. So everybody will be broken down into small groups. There'll be opportunities for breakout rooms, small group discussion on topics, and activities to do to keep people engaged. Also, whilst the lectures are being delivered, there's heavy use of the chat box. So, for example, the lecturer will discuss something or present an idea, then they will pose a question or an activity, and everybody will use the chat box and contribute their ideas that way. And the sisters are really good at utilising the responses that are coming back from the floor and then drawing on that and developing those ideas and answering questions as they go along. So, considering it's such a large group, it actually is an incredibly interactive environment, which obviously helps to keep people engaged.
But my reaction is to want to ask a question about what about those who are not very media savvy?
Yes.
You know, it sounds like you've got a Zoom, for instance, and people will have to get used to using this method, won't they? I mean, mind you, the clergy have even learned something about media during COVID when we had to use, and I've used online myself, of course.
Yes.
But is it a frightening, daunting?
I think it's a fair point that some of the technology might be a bit over-facing for some. But you're right, COVID definitely introduced a lot of us to that kind of environment, so I don't think it's completely unfamiliar. However, the sisters are very, very responsive to any questions and queries. There is a discussion board where people can pose questions, or you can email into the sisters if you're having any technological problems. They post fact sheets on the module for the online platform, the virtual learning environment that they use. And those online fact sheets actually have screenshots which show you step by step visually what to do, what buttons to press, which screens to go to, and how to find the information. So I do know that there are some people that had a few teething problems at the beginning, getting logged on, for example, or being able to connect at the right time or find the recordings from the lectures whenever they've been posted. But from my understanding, at the recent in-person day, most people felt a great deal of satisfaction with the way the course had been delivered. They found it very efficient. They found it very detailed. All the information was there. They found the sisters extremely helpful.
Now, this, sorry to break in, but this in-person day, that sounds very interesting to me, because there's a lot of online, obviously, but then you have a day when you come together.
Yes.
So, and how long have you been on the course? Since September?
So yes, started the
a day
course
then?
in September, and for each of the 2 years of study, there are 2 in-person days each year.
So there's been one already?
So we've had one already, end of October, and the purpose of that really was all about community formation, to try and bring as many people who were able to attend together as possible. And obviously it was good for the sisters to get some evaluation feedback about how everybody was finding things. But also there was an opportunity to go to Mass together. We went into St. Peter's Church in Winchester. There we had Mass. We also went to benediction in the afternoon. So there was opportunity for prayer, for reflection, for celebration together, as well as learning some new material and
this is
working together
lovely
as well.
Winchester. You didn't have to go all the way to the New Forest then. So,
it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was such a success that the second in-person day is going to be held at that venue again. Now, Winchester is quite a way to go. And we were very fortunate that the number of people from Ireland felt able to travel, but obviously...
People from Ireland?
Yes.
And other parts of the world too, are you?
But the lady from Australia couldn't make it, needless to say. But all materials are recorded and are available for individuals to watch.
Wonderful.
Yes, afterwards.
Wonderful. And now, a thing that always interests me is assessment.
Yes.
And because you've got all this material, but how are you getting it? How are you absorbing it? And I would have thought that that's where the assessment should be able to tell the sisters something about how you're getting on.
Yes, well, assessment, it doesn't matter how old you are or how many courses you've done or whatever, assessment always breeds that element of fear. And that was definitely shared between some of the participants at the course on the in-person day. And what was interesting was that certainly in my small group table where we were sat, a number of us actually identified ourselves as being converts. So we were not cradle Catholics, and we felt that that was really one of the benefits of doing a course such as this, that helped fill in some of the gaps, provide a sounder foundation to make sure that we were, fully immersed in what we should be teaching as part of our catechist role. So because of that feeling, I think the one thing we shared was a bit of fear about what this assessment was going
But
to
you don't
reveal.
have to. One thing that interested me, as opposed to when I was in charge of catechetics and running courses, was people always feared the assignments. But I understand you don't have assignments.
The sisters have actively decided not to have written assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, part of that is justified on the basis that they want the participants to develop the skills that they feel are going to be appropriate for the future catechist role. And one of these skills that they feel is important is being able to talk about the faith and being able to talk about it in a language that's adapted to the audience. Mm-hmm. And so therefore they are organising particularly the assessment for the first module, which I shall be doing next week, which involves doing an online questionnaire first. So this is a way of testing my knowledge, and I have to get over 50% on this questionnaire. And if I pass that, then I can go forward for the oral interview, which will involve a sister asking me 2 questions over a 10-minute period. And one of those questions is about scripture. And the other question is about how I would adapt that in a catechetic session that I might deliver to a particular group.
And do you know these 2 questions in advance?
They do publish a number of questions. So
right.
It's not the 2 questions, but a whole range of questions. And they expect us to revise and be prepared for all of those. So there is a section on the VLE, which actually gives you a whole lot of resources. So there's some papers, suitable documents, obviously the catechism, and all the other directory of catechesis, all the other sort of reference texts that we would be expected to use. And then we'll use those as well as the lectures and the teaching sessions to then prepare for these questions.
Now, just looking very quickly, because our time is limited on this little interview session, at the tutorial support, because it strikes me that can be quite important, an opportunity to talk to someone about how you're getting on or any problems you're meeting. I presume the sisters are offering something in that way as well, personally and
at the
group-wise.
beginning, it was mentioned that this would be offered. I hadn't experienced that as yet. We've worked predominantly in the small groups, and when the small groups have been offered during the lectures, they tend to be just the participants talking with themselves, and then come back with the sisters. But it was mentioned at the in-person day that actually they would value having a sister present so that they could explore some of these issues. And I understand that if somebody requests personal tutorials, that they can obtain that, but I haven't experienced that myself. They were at pains also to mention that individuals with particular special learning needs, or maybe other particular disabilities that might mean that it's more difficult for them to access some of the material, they would definitely be willing to talk to individuals so that they could accommodate meeting those needs. So in terms of being, offering equality and inclusion, it seemed to be very well set up for that.
Well, it sounds like a very supportive environment, and also as if it's running very smoothly, considering it's only just begun. It's amazing.
Well, I can only give my own experience of having just retired from working in higher education and working with delivering courses like this online. And I would say that the way this course has been set up and the way it's organised and delivered and structured is exemplary. The detail and the time and effort and the amount of resources that have been provided are fantastic.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that coming from you, Carolyn, because of the experience you have in education yourself. One thing just finally, really, I was always keen when I was in charge of catechetics in the diocese on getting credit that was publicly recognised credit. And I don't think that's been built into this course yet. But speaking to you beforehand, I got the impression you thought from your experience that for those who might want to get credit, maybe it would involve some extra assessment or, whatever. It might be worth looking at.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Does it might help towards a foundation degree or
Yes,
whatever?
yes, definitely, and also in some ways it might make the course as well more marketable in that way. Individuals do like to have credit, and for the efforts that the individuals are putting in, I would definitely say that it would be worthy of it, and the way it's structured, it ticks a lot of the boxes that I would have seen in the past for being credit worthy. So yes, as part of their development, I would imagine it's something they might want to think about looking at.
Yes. Well, thanks, Carolyn, and thanks to Martin, who's been recording our interview. Teresa, the secretary, doesn't seem to have managed to get here yet because I know she had another engagement. But I'm looking forward to showing this tomorrow at our Day for Catechists, which I'm responsible for organising. And maybe the sisters might like to use it as part of their promotion, because I think what you've been saying about your experience is most encouraging. In fact, it's already, of course, this recognised by the diocese.
Yeah.
And I think one or two other dioceses, from what I hear from Tracy Cattell, are also approving it. And if it's really a good course, it's well worth having the others get to know and to support its use elsewhere. Because we've got very exciting times in the ministry of catechists with the new developments that there are in recognition of catechists and their importance in the church. So I hope you've enjoyed this interview, and maybe we'll have another one later on when Carolyn has got her course complete. Thank you for watching.